Jon Snow spent his entire life being told he was a bastard, unwanted, shameful, less than. He watched his siblings grow up knowing who they were, where they belonged, who their mother was, and he got nothing. No answers, no identity, just shame. But here's what broke my heart watching Game of Thrones. Jon Snow never allowed himself to feel any of it. He never got angry, never broke down, never demanded answers, never let himself grieve what he lost before he ever had it. He buried all that pain so deep beneath duty and honor that he became the man everyone needed, but never the person he actually was. In the next 5 minutes, let's talk about the emotional prison Jon Snow built for himself, and why so many of us do the exact same thing. Imagine this. You grow up in a castle, surrounded by siblings, raised by a father who clearly loves you, but you're not allowed to sit at the table with the family when guests come. You're not allowed to call yourself a Stark. You watch your brothers and sisters inherit titles, lands, futures, while you inherit nothing but the word bastard. And the one person who could explain why your father refuses to talk about it. Every time you ask about your mother, he shuts down, changes the subject, looks pained but says nothing. So you learn. Don't ask, don't push, don't make him uncomfortable with your pain. This is where Jon Snow's pattern begins. He learns that his feelings, his hurt, his confusion, his need to know who he is, are a burden to others. So he stops expressing them. He stops even acknowledging them to himself. He becomes the good bastard, the one who doesn't complain, the one who accepts his place, the one who never makes anyone uncomfortable with his legitimate pain, and everyone praises him for it. Look how noble Jon is. He never complains. He accepts his position with grace, but that's not nobility. That's a child learning that his pain doesn't matter, that his need for identity, for belonging, for answers, all of it is less important than making everyone else comfortable. So what does Jon do with all that buried pain? He joins the Night's Watch, and on the surface, it looks like honor. It looks like choosing duty over comfort. It looks noble. But psychologically, he's running. The Night's Watch is perfect for someone who doesn't know where he belongs, because at the Night's Watch, nobody belongs anywhere. Everyone's past is erased. Everyone starts over. I'm not a bastard anymore. I'm a brother of the Night's Watch. I have a place now, a purpose. But here's the thing about using duty to avoid pain. It works. Until it doesn't. Every time Jon has a chance to confront his real feelings about his mother, about his identity, about being denied the family he deserves, duty saves him from having to feel it. When he finds out Ned Stark isn't his father, he doesn't get time to process the betrayal, the grief, the identity crisis, because there's a war happening. People need him. Duty calls. When he finds out he's actually Aegon Targaryen, the rightful heir to the throne, he doesn't get to explore what that means, how that redefines everything about his life, because Daenerys is spiraling. Duty calls. When he's literally murdered by his own men and brought back from the dead, he doesn't get to process the trauma of dying, the existential horror, the betrayal, because there's a battle to fight. Duty calls. Jon Snow uses duty the way some people use alcohol or work or relationships, as a way to never have to stop and actually feel, and everyone around him enables it. Because a Jon Snow who's focused on duty is useful. A Jon Snow who stops to grieve and rage and break down. That's inconvenient. So he keeps going, keeps leading, keeps sacrificing, keeps being the good man. And the pain? It just goes deeper. Here's the most heartbreaking thing about Jon Snow. He's surrounded by people who love him. Samwell Tarly, Ghost, Tormund, Ygritte loved him. His siblings love him, but he never lets them in. Not really. There's always this wall, pun intended, between Jon and real vulnerability. When Ygritte tells him, "You know nothing, Jon Snow," she's not just teasing him about wildling culture. She's pointing out that he won't let himself know anything. Not about his feelings, not about what he wants, not about who he actually is beneath the duty and honor. When Sam tries to talk to him about his feelings, Jon deflects, changes the subject, makes it about the mission. When his siblings try to celebrate him, praise him, tell him he belongs, he can't accept it, can't let it in. Because accepting love means acknowledging how much the lack of it hurt. And he can't go there. This is the trap of buried pain. The longer you bury it, the more impossible it becomes to unearth. Because if Jon stopped and actually let himself feel the rage at Ned for lying to him his entire life, let himself feel the grief for the mother he never knew, let himself feel the loneliness of growing up as an outsider in his own home, let himself feel the betrayal of being murdered by his own men, let himself feel the horror of what Daenerys became and what he had to do, it would break him. And Jon Snow cannot afford to break, because people need him. So he does what he's always done. He swallows it, buries it deeper, puts on the armor of duty, and keeps going. But you can see it in his eyes, the weight, the exhaustion, the emptiness. He's carrying decades of unfelt grief, unprocessed trauma, and unexpressed rage. And it's killing him from the inside. Here's why Jon Snow's story destroys me. Because I see him in so many people. I see him in myself sometimes. The person who never complains. The person who always handles it. The person everyone relies on because they never break down. The person who uses productivity, responsibility, caretaking, duty, anything to avoid stopping long enough to feel the pain they've been carrying for years. We live in a world that rewards Jon Snows. We praise people who tough it out, who keep going, who don't let things get to them. We celebrate emotional stoicism. We admire people who bury their pain and just keep functioning. But we don't see the cost. The cost is a life half-lived. Relationships kept at arm's length. Joy inaccessible, because if you let yourself feel joy, you might accidentally feel the pain too. The cost is becoming a ghost of yourself, going through motions, being useful but not alive. Jon Snow gave everything to everyone, but he never gave himself permission to feel. And by the end of the series, you can see it. He's hollow. He's done everything right. He's been honorable. He's sacrificed, and he's empty. Because he never allowed himself to be human, to be messy, to be angry, to grieve, to break down and say, "This isn't fair. I deserved better. I'm hurt." He spent his entire life being the man everyone needed. And he never got to just be Jon. The show ends with Jon going back beyond the wall with the wildlings and Ghost. And there's something beautiful about that. The wildlings never cared that he was a bastard. Ghost never needed him to be noble. Beyond the wall, there's no duty, no throne, no expectations. Maybe, finally, Jon gets to just exist. Maybe, for the first time in his life, he gets to feel without purpose, to grieve without a mission, to just be without justifying his existence through service. I hope so, because Jon Snow deserved to feel his pain, all of it, and then, finally, let it go. If you see yourself in Jon Snow, the one who carries everything, who never breaks, who buries pain beneath duty, this is your permission. You're allowed to feel it. You're allowed to stop being strong for 5 minutes. You're allowed to grieve what you lost, rage at what was unfair, and break down without a purpose. You don't have to earn the right to feel your feelings. You're not just the person everyone needs you to be. You're human, and your pain matters. Even if you've spent your whole life pretending it doesn't.